It's a few minutes after the Super Bowl.
It feels like it.
It doesn't feel that way.
We have been awake for every one of them.
Hey, so you might have heard Chiefs won the Super Bowl last night, defeating the San Francisco 49ers 31-20, and we are going to discuss this Super Bowl victory and what it means with Vahe Gregorian, Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope, and Sam Mellinger, all here, all awake mostly. And guys, the first thing I thought of as it was becoming apparent that the Chiefs were going to win last night was, well, there goes some story angles for the future. How many? I've been doing this for 5 years. Sam, you've been covering them longer than anybody. Part of the narrative of the Chiefs for 5 decades, has been misfortune, just bad luck, bad teams. 50 years worth of a Super Bowl drought, no longer a storyline for these Kansas City Chiefs.
It's always there. It always has been.
Just our friend. It's been our friend.
Our uncle got his life together last night. And now we got to invite him over again and all that stuff.
He'll be on his best behavior now.
There is I guess this always happens if a team goes that long without winning. We probably said some of the similar things in 2015. But it's just like the difference of old Chiefs, where it was just something just really creative is how they're going to break your heart. To new Chiefs, down 24 and then win by, 21 or whatever?
Right.
In the division round,
20,
down,
right. 20.
down 10,
Yeah, 20.
won by 11, down 10 in the Super Bowl, won by 11 in the Super Bowl. And it's not that surprising. Down 10 with 9 minutes left, you're like, I still got the quarterback. If they can keep him clean a little bit, and he'll figure it out.
You make good.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. Sorry. Quick to your point. Had the Chiefs lost any of the last 3 games, the way their opponents did, had they had these leads,
Yeah,
a 24-0 lead,
100%.
I think we would have seen the reappearance of some form of one of the headlines you had over your story when they lost to the Titans.
Yeah.
Which, tell me that one again.
The Chiefs lost to the Titans because they're the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that was in play.
and not just that, but look, I always have this in mind that we, not just us, but I think fans and other media, oversimplification is just a thing that happens, right? So it's not just the quarterback. There's a lot of other stuff that happen as well. But I swear to God, it feels like if they had a normal quarterback, they would have lost maybe all 3 of these games.
For a lot of reasons, right? I mean, including the very thing you said a minute ago, which was it's 8:53 left, the ball's getting kicked back to them. Your anxiety level's a little different if you think this is a guy who might get you a touchdown in a minute or two. I mean, we still were kind of thinking that drive was unfurling a little slowly, but you just do things differently because you have that, and then of course you also have that capability.
Well, and a drive that was unfurling slowly, and they still scored in 2:40,
right?
Because he throws this ridiculous back foot, 55 yards in the air, throw down to Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's just
on 3rd and 15.
Yeah, he just unlocks. I'm not a video game guy, but he just unlocks stages that other teams aren't worthy of having.
Well, let me take this moment to invite you to send your questions and comments, and we'll get to as many of them as we can, and to thank our sponsor, Big O Tires, for not only for today's sponsorship, but they've been with us all season. It's been terrific working with Big O Tires on this. But I'll play a little bit of a contrarian here. Those previous comebacks in the AFC playoffs happened before halftime.
Right.
Chiefs were showing off last night. Oh, down 10, 8 minutes to go. Yeah, sure. I wasn't there. I was rationalizing the defeat, with 8 minutes to go. I know you were writing it. I was writing stuff, Herbie, that
the magic of Patrick Mahomes ran out. That was my lead.
I actually started to write one sentence about the possibility, with the other 1,500 words about the idea they were going to win, and then it was 44-yard pass.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just at that moment, don't you start thinking,
Oh, I stopped writing at that moment. And that's Blair, because Blair was sitting next to me. It was, it's time to watch the game.
Whereas that moment, the second interception, I think you're like, this just isn't going to happen.
12 minutes
With
to
good
about
reason.
12 minutes to go is when the second interception happened. Something we haven't seen only one other time in his career that he'd thrown as many as 2 in a game. And in that game, he also added 6 touchdown passes.
The thing that stuck out to me is there were so many of those moments that we would be writing about that fits into this Chiefs timeline of the past 50 years. We'd say everything was setting up perfectly for them until Patrick Mahomes dislocated his knee, and then you'd be pointing at that and say that was the Chiefs moment that we're used to, or it'd be one of these comebacks. You know, they had a punt blocked and they had so many things go wrong against the Texans, but one guy leads them back to it. And then Mahomes has, I think through 3 quarters, arguably the worst game of his career. We were gonna say, and he still leads them back.
We were looking up what's his worst passing yards. Yeah, we were there.
That is the difference. Like these other comebacks, he wasn't playing poorly, and he was missing passes and all that stuff. I mean, just like kind of basic passes that
He was
that not just he makes, but
underthrown, thrown
average
behind
quarterbacks
guys.
make. Yeah. But and also the line was not giving him a chance to play well.
Yeah.
especially up the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially
I think you got to give a lot of credit to the 49ers here. I think their defensive coordinator is a stud, and he came in there with a plan. And I know Sam here mentioned it at our poolside Facebook Live edition last week that interior defense can really get after the quarterback, and that's what they were doing. They were rattling him inside there, but they figured out a way to. They figured out the puzzle.
Both rattling and making it so it wasn't just like he was seeing shadows. I mean, he had to respond to it. I mean, he had to do things that he doesn't normally have to do, and the coverage was really. You might have just said this, but the coverage was also really good at times. For all that though, he just threw some bad balls.
I'd never seen him misthrow as many passes in a game.
Especially
as he
the
did
one
yesterday.
interception was
The interception
just
was
right off
behind.
the
The
tail.
interception was just a bad decision. I mean, he said, he goes, I think I hit him between the 5 and the 4 in the chest.
You don't want to just trying to throw to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
He
He harmed.
He thought because he was rolling out that he'd bring the linebacker with him, and it just didn't happen, and he still threw the pass anyway. And then the second one, he's intentionally trying to throw the ball a tad behind Tyreek Hill because the safety's charging on that play. He knows Tyreek Hill is going to get crushed if he leads him. So he tries to throw a little bit behind him, but he throws late and throws behind him, and that combination leads to maybe a catchable ball for Tyreek Hill. We've seen him catch it before, but enough for him to bobble it and throw an interception.
A ball that could have been caught, but really, I mean, it was
It's
the
on
bad pass
Mahomes.
that caused
Yeah,
it.
It's still on Mahomes, that interception.
Olin Holland asks, should Damian Williams been the MVP, an award that went to Patrick Mahomes?
I was thinking about Damian Williams till the time the announcement came. He was pretty important in this game.
I thought he was too. Herbie thought it was a runaway with Mahomes.
I for full transparency purposes,
Yeah,
I was one of 16 members out of all the people that were covering that game
Olin?
We're only telling you for transparency purposes.
to have a vote in the most valuable player. And my rationale behind that is simply this: that comeback does not happen without Patrick Mahomes. Yes, Damian Williams had that long touchdown run, and he scored on that 5-yard touchdown pass, but it was Patrick Mahomes who led the comeback, and that's the reason I was saying in my head, this game, the Chiefs do not win this game without Patrick Mahomes. That's why I voted for Mahomes.
Look, I think the rationale is totally on. I mean, if it came down to me being a voter, I would have voted that way. But I think Damian Williams was right in the argument, and I don't know that he got as much thought as he maybe could have.
Either one of them would have been fine.
Yeah, the thing that impressed me the most is even though Mahomes did have 2 interceptions, he still had 2 touchdown passes in the critical stages of the game, and he also rushed for a touchdown. The Chiefs scored 21 points in that fourth quarter. And it was all led by Patrick Mahomes.
Fourth quarter, hell, 8 minutes. I mean, when they took, I think 8:53 was the time when they.
8:53, 2:40 to score a touchdown, right?
Right.
Is that what it was? And then they get the ball back less than a minute later.
3 and out, and one of those plays was Chris Jones batting down a pass, the first of 2 straight series in which he did that, which was huge.
He was dominant.
Did the 49ers throw all 3 plays on that 3 and out?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe
I
they
think
ran
there was
once.
Yeah, I think so.
But that was as huge as anything. Obviously, I mean, if they don't get the ball back in a workable time frame,
Yeah.
I mean, two 49er first downs there, it changes everything.
I thought it was bizarre they were passing in that
Yeah.
situation at all on second down, and I also thought it took them too long to establish a couple of their, like Raheem Moser was to me their best weapon against the Chiefs, and he did not even carry the ball until the second quarter in that game. And I think Shanahan's a great play designer. I mean, he had the Chiefs off balance for a couple of drives there, but I thought he missed some opportunities early in the game and late in the game that he's probably regretting.
Another missed opportunity. I still don't know what the heck they were doing the last 2 minutes of the first half. They had
We were
three
all
timeouts.
saying at the time. I thought both coaches were screwing that. I don't understand calling timeouts with 19 seconds. Like the risk reward of
Which
just
is what
getting
the Chiefs did.
Yeah, just getting a potential punt return, that's not worth the risk. But Shanahan could have called timeout with a minute and a half left and
Yeah,
given himself
that's the one
two timeouts in a 2-minute drill.
Yeah.
Just a complete lack of confidence in your quarterback.
I think what's interesting here is throughout the week leading to the Super Bowl, we kept hearing about Andy Reid. What did you learn from your first Super Bowl experience? And I think some people tend to forget that Kyle Shanahan was on that Falcons team that blew that 28-3 lead against the Patriots. And the reason they lost that game was, for some reason or another, they abandoned the run and they started throwing the ball. And I'm sitting there watching the game last night. This is like watching that Super Bowl again. Why are you getting away from what makes you what you are? And the 49ers are a running team. And in that fourth quarter, I don't know why they were passing.
I don't know if you guys heard it because everybody spent time in the Chiefs, either locker room or the risers where the players were, but I was listening to the San Francisco post game, and they, of course, going back to the final 2 minutes of the first half, big question for them was the non-pass interference, or I'm sorry, the offensive pass interference
Yeah.
on George Kittle on a play that really would have set up the
44 yards,
49ers
yeah.
in great position inside the 10 with enough time maybe to take a shot at the end zone before kicking a field goal, maybe. Or maybe
No
10.
timeouts left. I want to say they're like 10 seconds left.
They
Maybe.
might have had a shot at the end zone
Yeah,
before
they
kicking a
should have had
short
a
field
play.
goal.
Yeah, basically killed the half.
Yeah.
They
so,
took a knee, yeah.
So what was? Did we agree with the call? What did we
Well-
discussed the call?
McDowell and I are going to just keep our mouths shut because we both squawked about it and thought it was a weak call
I
at the
thought it was
time.
soft.
You might have said it too. I can't remember, but we got just hammered
Just
on Twitter.
ripped on
People
them,
saying
yeah.
they don't know what game we're seeing. I never saw an angle that made me feel like that's a definite penalty.
I went back and watched the TV version. I still think it's a soft call.
Yeah.
And what somebody had actually played it side by side with the Kyle Rudolph call that was not called in New Orleans, and Rudolph pushes off way more than George Kittle does in the play last night.
Vasu Real, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, lives in 49ers country. They're pretty upset about the Kittle call. Owen Johnson stayed up late last night hoping to catch you guys after the game. Sorry about that, Owen. I'm glad you woke up early enough to catch us today.
Thank you, Owen.
Yep. Kyle Coffey, good morning, A-Team. That was outstanding because it showed the same resolve the team has showed all year. I think so.
Yeah.
Especially in the playoffs.
Can I say something about the pass interference call?
Yeah, please do.
I think this highlights a problem in the National Football League. Okay, you have the capability to review pass interferences, and the reason why you did that was because of the debacle that happened last year. Everybody knows what happened last year, but throughout this season, what we think is pass interference is not pass interference, and what we think is not pass interference should be pass interference. I don't even know if they reviewed that because it happened under the 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody question Al Riveron. I didn't see a pool report on that. So I don't know what the league thinks about it. But the bottom line is I think that rule needs to go away
They posted
because they just don't do anything.
They posted on Twitter that it was the correct call that he pushed off, and that's why they didn't review it. But to me, they put themselves, to your point, under the microscope this year by making that play reviewable. Now all of a sudden we're looking at those plays with even more analysis because I think all of us were surprised that they didn't at least take a look at it last night. And now it's like you think that definitively about that call that you're not even going to take a second look at it?
And they show the replays in the stadium, and of course the 49ers fans are just beside themselves booing.
Both of them.
So
I didn't even get you off track.
no,
Sorry about that.
not at all. Ron Hohenstein again. Forgive if I'm mispronouncing. After the 2:35 mark of the third quarter, defense threw a shutout. Defense not nearly getting enough credit held the Niners to 20 points. I can remember turning to somebody last night. It was you or Sam that when it was 20-17, I think when he made it 2017, I said this is why you hire Steve Spagnuolo right here, right now, this is where you have to get the stop.
Yeah.
And they sure did. For the second straight series, they get the stop. And we talked about what the 49ers were doing on offense, probably not smart. But again, Chris Jones bats down the pass. The defense plays great. And that's what changed this team. Offense actually statistically took a little step back. This year, the defense took a step up, and over the second half of the season, last 6 games of the regular season and throughout the playoffs, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just like why you hire Spagnuolo, but it's why you live with the first 4, 6, 8,
Yes.
whatever it was, games of some growing pains. And look, some of this is just like game specific or whatever, but it's interesting at least that the stars showed up. Like Chris Jones was flat out dominant late in that game, batting passes down, and he was.
Even though the stat sheet doesn't show it.
Oh, he was beating dudes up. Frank Clark, I saw this stat. 5 sacks in the postseason. First guy with 5 sacks in a postseason since Von Miller.
I didn't know that.
You remember how dominant
Yeah.
Frank Clark had 5
defense
sacks.
was?
And he had one last. He had the one at the end of the game.
Yeah.
last
That's
night.
amazing.
Yeah.
He had
So
3.
that was the one at the very end, right? Yeah.
And I thought Tyrann Mathieu didn't have a pick 6. Sorry, Vahe.
All year long.
But I thought he played really well as well. Like I thought he was where he needed to be. And this is a play that he probably wouldn't even consider a highlight. But we talked about it in real time. They had a run down the left sideline where he got knocked on his ass. He basically got pancaked, stood up, made the tackle. Like there's just sort of a stick-to-itiveness, as they say.
Well, it makes you think of his 64-yard run to who did he run down on the one play in was it against Titans? No, Texans when he ran down Deshaun.
Frank Clark. I was
Yeah.
talking about Tyrann.
Oh,
Either way.
make some more about the other run where he
Some more
ran
coffee.
58 yards.
You want me to get another cup?
There were
We're on to
3
Tyrann. Sorry.
There were 3 straight plays that Tyrann made on that drive, that being the first one, that probably don't stand out to people because they were all 49ers plus plays.
Yeah.
I think first down plays where he was the last line of defense,
Last
and he
guy,
makes
yep.
all 3 tackles.
Yeah,
on
miss one of
the
those and
series.
it's a completely
Yeah.
different game.
Can I just take a minute to say I really appreciate the polite blank stare when I. Sorry.
Look, Danny Raven said there was no doubt it was offensive pass interference. Don't know what you guys were looking at. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. That makes sense.
Either way.
And we might have mentioned this too, but Chris Jones, the other big play Chris Jones had. I mean, he set things in motion on the first Garoppolo interception,
Oh, him and
then
Mike
Pinnell came
McDowell.
in.
Yeah.
But Chris
Yeah,
Jones
absolutely.
got him off balance, and then
Spun him
Pinnell came in,
around.
and then just
Right.
Yep.
All right, Sam, you were in the locker room after the game. The rest of us were around the players that were outside the locker room, but you went in the locker room, and that makes you maybe not, the only media member that was inside the locker room in 2015 when the Royals won, and this year when the Chiefs won. It's a happy locker room.
Yeah, the Chiefs locker room, if we're going to compare, was more sober. Like, just like literally. Blood alcohol content was much lower than the Royals. But it was really cool. I'm glad I went in there. It's a big room, first of all. And it felt like they were like different neighborhoods, when you walk in there. Because like, God bless the NFL staffer that was trying to shut down the Chris Jones interview. Like he just kept, all right, last question. All right, last one. Nope, what you got? He just, that guy wanted to talk. And, and it, look, like he's in the heat of the moment. It's the accomplishment of his, I'll just say professional life, but he might say personal life as well. I don't know. But certainly the accomplishment of his professional life. And he's talking about long term. He's talking about we're going to build an effing dynasty and all this stuff. I mean, that's where his mind is. I mean, that was a guy, and we knew that, right? Like he showed up to training camp on time when he easily could have held out. And we know how much guys like training camp, right? And he had a easy excuse not to show up. So he was bought in. You see like kind of, I think it was the DBs, maybe a couple of receivers, like dancing. They all got their phones out, like taking videos of themselves dancing. Travis Kelce has the trophy in another corner. He's taking turns posing with it. Tyrann Mathieu was in, like a corner of the locker room talking about a dinner that he had with Brett Veach and Patrick Mahomes right after signing, where they were talking about like this, this is not the prize, this contract. This is going to be a 3-year run, a 5-year run. maybe more. Charvarius Ward, my guy, talking about like this is the happiest moment of life. Like started crying. He talked about everything he's been through from being depressed in training camp and wanting to quit, wanting to trade. There were just like all these different. Brett Veach losing his voice and having to go grab a Gatorade because he needs to tell you and he's like, he's just going hoarse and he goes, "Sorry guys," and he steps away and everyone's like, "Okay, cool, go celebrate. You're the GM of the world champions." He goes, "No, keep rolling," and he just grabs like this orange Gatorade. He's like, "Sorry, I just trying to help my voice a little bit." I mean, it was just like every emotion. I think that maybe you would have expected, maybe a little bit more. I mean, it was just everywhere. They were all feeling it.
How about, can you give us a little rendition of Kelsey's version of his song?
Yeah, he did change it. The Beastie Boys that. Has he been doing that before the AFC Championship?
I'm
game?
worried that I didn't know that if he has, but I have no evidence of him doing it before.
They were playing
Maybe
that
he
game.
always did it.
They played that song during games, but I
Right.
never heard him sort of do it like that. But now it's "Fight for Your Right to Lombardi." The update.
Yeah.
Clever.
The
but
update.
Well done. Colby Rapp has a great observation. Great job all year, guys.
Colby! Hell yeah.
My man.
That is some insight. Thank you so much.
Can you click the like on?
Yeah. Thanks, Colby. Says you can't wait to stay up late Thursday, April 23rd, just for Brett Veach to trade the 32nd pick for a team trying to move up and get a quarterback. Hey, but that does bring us, and we'll talk more about that, I think, this week. What's in store for the Chiefs beyond this now? And we've just spent some time talking about Chris Jones. He's a piece of the puzzle for the Chiefs. But to hear him last night, I kind of can't believe he wouldn't be part of the future.
He really wants to. The Chiefs want him. I mean, that is a mutual and I believe sincere thing. Like last year, I think the Chiefs saw it as we're going to give Frank the contract that Chris Jones wants because Frank was in Chris Jones' situation a year before.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see Chris go through that, and then maybe he'll get the contract. I mean, it's at some point, and Brett said it the other day, right? Like at some point, you run out of money. Like the salary cap exists, and you can only kick the can so far down the road. But I do believe, this is what they promote. I always like, am I just buying it, or are we being naive? But I really do believe those guys genuinely like each other. If you're on that team, why the hell would you not want to stay together? You just won the freaking Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, you're saying whether we're naive or not, I mean, the result now says doesn't matter. I mean, this is the group that can win a Super Bowl,
Right.
and now you absolutely do everything you can to
Keep
keep
it
what you
together.
can and
Yeah.
fill in where you can.
And they don't have guys. I'm sorry, Herbie, but
Go
they
ahead.
don't have guys. Maybe I'm forgetting about somebody, but they don't have guys that you think, ooh, if we keep them, is this going to be a year too long? Are they at that age? Are they at that point in their careers? I mean, like, Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark. I mean, Chris Jones is what, 25?
Yeah, they're all in their
24?
prime.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're still at worst going like this, and
Right.
and most of them are going like this. The quarterback's 24.
And how do you not want to play with that guy? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you not want to be part of a
Right.
guy who, he's 24 now and he's already been the MVP of the regular season, the Pro Bowl MVP, and now a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
He's won all the MVPs the NFL gives out. And he's done it in 3 years, and he played only 2 of them. So,
Youngest player ever to win the regular season MVP and have a Super Bowl
Yeah.
title.
Yeah,
Yep.
those Dan Marino. There was a headline. I think it was a New York Daily News, maybe it was Newsweek or something. It was like, "Is Patrick Mahomes doomed to be Dan Marino?" And first of all,
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
funny thing
Yeah.
to say. Like Dan
Yeah.
Marino was like a first ballot,
right,
all
Yeah.
timer.
He was on the field as one of the 100 greatest players of all time.
doomed. That's the worst case scenario for this guy, and he just squashed that.
By the way, he's accomplished so many things that this was an actual question in the news conference with him this morning. And Patrick, I think, had he was a little bit of a daze maybe from being up too long, too late. But he kind of looked at the question, just smiled. The question was, do you think you have any more left in you?
Yeah,
Who asked that?
I hate to-
Somebody from the other side of the
Okay,
room.
all right.
Local media was on one side.
It was a national media person, and the question really was kind of phrased like that. Like, do you think you have anything more you can he's 24.
You should
I
have
think
said,
he's got a
really?
shot. I think there's more ahead for him.
There's been a couple times where he's been tested. Can you reply rudely to a question? Do you have that in you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What I was going to say, though, just to kind of relate back to the Royals, when the Royals won, you knew that window was closing because there is no salary cap
Great
in
point.
baseball. These guys were going away. You knew that the money was going to price the Royals out of it. Here
Yeah.
with the salary cap, the window is as long as Mahomes is here, I think, and he's 24 years old.
Well, it's with the quarterback.
And you have to get creative.
They
With,
keep him.
sorry, you have to get creative with a lot of contracts too. I mean, think by my last count, the Chiefs are. And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but what's going to happen in 3 weeks is going to set up what happens next month, and that's free agency. But the Chiefs have 20 players scheduled to be unrestricted free agents. Of course, Jones tops the list. But
Right.
that's a lot of key pieces.
And some important ones too.
Yep.
I mean, including both backup quarterbacks. So yeah, as we mentioned earlier, that's a decision the Chiefs are going to have to make. Is who they're going to have to
I mean,
back.
you could just pick somebody off for a high school squad mid-season, though.
As long as it's a former Dolphin, too. So,
That's right.
It is some guys like Chris Jones gets the most shine or whatever of the UFAs, but it's Bashad Breeland,
Yeah,
it's
Breeland.
Kendall Fuller.
Mike Pennell, I think. I mean,
Wisniewski.
there's some guys.
Yeah, there's some good guys there.
Pennell says he'd like to be back, but I don't think there's been a lot of communication yet between those
That'll
parties.
pick up in 3 weeks.
All right. So again, I think we're gonna spend some time talking about this later in the week. John Stewart asks about the team's psyche going into next season, winning a title, and how that would affect the team, mentally going into a next season. We've seen it both ways. If you're the Patriots, you've got the heart and soul of a champion, and they roll every year. But I also think about teams that won it and then you didn't hear from them again.
Sure.
Tampa Bay, when the Bucks won theirs. Eagles have trended downward since winning theirs 3 years ago. But I think we just kind of established, especially if Mahomes gets his way and this team stays together, I don't see them regressing to a point where they're fighting for a playoff spot. I just think that this team is now built to sustain this for a while.
Beyond the talent, what really stood out to me in Patrick Mahomes' press conference last night was he was asked 3 times about, can this team build a dynasty? And I think a normal guy would probably be like, I'm just trying to enjoy this first one tonight. He answered it all 3 times. Basically to the fact that we've got a good thing here as long as we keep players, we keep coach. And I know that the talent of the quarterback matters more than anything else in the NFL does, but I also think that the attitude of the quarterback matters a lot here. And he has this sort of uncanny ability to already be thinking about what's next.
Very quick aside about that, and I thought about this in the last day or so, then I forgot. Do we have any sense of whether he's getting knee surgery? Is he going to get that thing cleaned up?
I think it typically happens right after the season ends. All these players who have had ailments that need minor procedure, and I use minor procedure because there's really nothing minor about sticking a knife in you, but it's like most of them will go through some type of surgical procedures, but we don't know if it's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he did.
So I was told by some doctors when we initially went through that injury that you're going to have surgery at some point, or you play with an elevated risk of the re-injury. If you go in there and have surgery, then that elevated risk is gone. But we all know that they got lucky on exactly what the structure was like of the knee when they went in there, and I have been told that he might be able to avoid it this offseason. They think it's looking pretty good.
Beth Welsh weighs in. She wants to know, how's the coffee? I would say
I'm
not
out.
Empty.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, I'm empty.
not as good as the Arrowhead coffee. The Arrowhead Brewing Company. Hey, we've talked a lot about the players here. We haven't talked about Andy Reid. Let's
All sit back and watch
let's-
Vahe.
Here we go.
Give him his monologue.
Jill, can you turn the camera, tilt it to right here?
No, look, I mean, the thing is about Andy, right? He's the guy everybody wanted to say can't win the big one. And, I think we all recognize that the difference between being a really good coach and a great coach, it's a little bit sometimes if you get the magic unicorn, it's a little bit if you get some bounces, it's a little bit if you've been here before and know what to do with it. I think anybody who's been around Andy knows that he's sort of always trying to add to his arsenal, whether it's just new plays or replenishing everything. And so he was obviously a sentimental favorite to win after all the influence he's had on so many people. And so it's great to see it for him. I mean, I think now paves the way for him to do more. I really do. I think there's this sense of not the 4-minute mile, right, but something like that. Like once something gets broken, it looks a little different once you break through. And so we'll see. But I really wouldn't be surprised if he and the Chiefs win a couple more Super Bowls in his remaining career, whatever that might be. I think we've talked about this before. I think he'll go as long as the quarterback goes.
What was the comment he made?
And that's a good point because he was asked that question today. Andy, you're 61. How much longer do you think you're going to do this? And he said, I really haven't thought about that much. But there comes that phrase. But I've got a quarterback here. He keeps me young. I mean, as long
Makes
as
it
I'm
easy.
Yeah, makes it easy for me, and I get to go to work every day knowing I'm going to work with this guy.
Yeah.
Mahomes is making Reid younger, and
Andy's going to try and clone himself or something.
Why would you leave this situation?
No, yeah.
Right. And look, I think about all the things in Andy's life. I mean, when he's had unimaginably hard times, he turned to football. So now, I mean, football is not only just his vocation. I mean, it's really in his veins.
To give you an idea how much he's loved, I mean, and you think about when fans start chanting your name. We certainly heard it the AFC Championship game. We heard it again last night. Andy.
You're right. When I first heard that chant, I was thinking they're doing MVP. No, Andy.
Yeah.
Andy. That's who every. And then the tweets that Pete put together from all over the sports, well, not just football, sports world, congratulating Andy Reid was pretty cool.
Incredible the amount of players that mentioned him last night.
Yeah.
Nobody went through that podium setup or the riser setup without mentioning Andy Reid.
Well, it was a neat thing that you pointed out. Sam McDowell and I were breaking down game film afterwards. Actually, Sam was showing me something on a screen, and it was the scene surrounding Andy afterwards, which was hard to tell from the naked eye upstairs, but it was almost like a receiving line waiting to get to him.
People are
swarming and surrounding him. There was a focal point. You don't have focal points in these kind of events usually.
It was incredible how many people were trying to just get a split second with him after the game.
Yeah, there's little doubt that he's beloved around the league. And then, of course, his influence on the league, and especially the players, really stands out. I think to me, like I'm sitting there in Andy Reid's press conference, former Eagles quarterback Coy Detmer sends me a text. As I'm sitting, I showed it. I showed it to Blair.
That's cool.
He's like, God, it's so good to see him up there. And I mean, that's the kind of influence that he has. And even Roger Goodell this morning, when he introduced him, and he says, he's got the Super Bowl. He had the Super Bowl championship. Now he's really at that next level. So you can no longer say he's a coach that can't win the big one. He won the big one, and he deserved it.
It's a really. I've always believed this. Like, I mean, he's a smart coach and he's good at designing plays and innovation and staying fresh and all that stuff. But I don't think you feel what you said with the tweets or getting random texts from people that worked for him however many years ago. That's just like how he treats people.
Yeah.
Which is behind the scenes. We know like the NFL is obviously like a hyper competitive business, and egos can get in the way, and you can take a shortcut here, there, whatever, and think that just to get to Tuesday, just to get to the next day. But I think if you do that, you don't get this kind of reaction from people that you work for. I think this is the reaction of people that have seen him away from the cameras, away from all that stuff, just how he treats people, how he operates, that he looks out for others when maybe he doesn't have to. I think that's why you see all this stuff.
That also speaks to one of his strengths that I think is underrated, which is there's not problems in the locker room like you hear among 29 other NFL teams throughout a season sometimes, and there's a lot of talented guys here, a lot of talented guys on the offense who probably want the ball a lot more than they get it, and somehow he massages that and makes it work. Probably something that we don't talk about enough just because it hasn't become a problem.
One of the things, you hit on this, but it was in really captivating way. He said it the other day. I was speaking with Dee Ford, and he talked about that, his contact with Andy since he was traded, left the Chiefs, and how Andy is someone who he doesn't treat you well because he needs something from you. I mean, they have this feeling that it's because it's what you do, and that just goes a long way. And I think it's completely sincere. And I think every phase of his life, that's what people take away from who Andy is.
Yep. Our producer, Jill Toyoshiba, had a great photograph of the celebration on the scene of Andy.
Yeah, it was.
And we think Spags was in it, and Mahomes, and Yeah, and Donovan. It was really cool. Okay, let me run through a few of these really quick. Tyler Hoffman wants to know how to get one of those papers on the table there. Show him that it's not really, it's just a cover, but it's pretty cool.
Fooled you.
Still pretty cool, though.
All over the field last night.
Yep. And Tyler, if you want one, email me. We'll get you one. Jack Hilliard, I hope Veach keeps the team young. Stram kept his championship players too long. Absolutely did. Absolutely. Didn't turn over the roster. And
Jack already wants guys cut. Get rid of them.
That's the point we were just talking about, though, is that this team is not at that point.
No,
yet.
they're not old enough
Yeah.
to be at
They've
that
still
point.
got a
Right.
few more years before you have a chance to be too loyal.
Right. Jack Wafer, thanks for your awesome coverage. You'll always get a mention
Thanks, Jack.
here. I've saved all the special sections you've done. See you back in Kansas City
Another
soon.
like.
Another like.
Click like.
Like Jack.
Boost that comment.
Okay, let's see. Mike Burris, thank you very much for these discussions. You all have really enhanced the experience. Like.
What do you do, love?
Send all the positive comments.
Todd sent me an email. We'll get you one too as well. So, all right, that's it for the season. But that's not it for Chiefs news. And I believe there's an event coming up later this week that might involve the Chiefs in downtown Kansas City. 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Going to be a parade. What do we think about the numbers? Bigger than the Royals 5 years ago?
Absolutely.
They'll estimate it at 1.5 million or something. I don't know.
That's right. There's 2 million people in the Kansas City metro area. There'll be 2.3 million people at the parade.
Are we really going to haggle about crowd size?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Oh, he went there. All right. Save that for when you make the White House trip.
Got the newcomer.
Or you're the one who's going to be going from White House to the White House, aren't you?
It's a sore subject.
All right, so some of us have planes to catch, and others have breakfast to eat, and we have really enjoyed talking to you guys this season. It's been a blast, longest season in Chiefs history, I guess. Certainly, there's never been a Facebook Live post game in February, so this is a first. And again, as we said at the top, Big O Tires, it's been terrific working with you guys. Look forward to continuing to work with Big O Tires over the next several weeks, maybe months. So for Vahe, for Sam McDowell, for Herbie Teope, for Sam Mellinger, for Jill Toyoshiba behind the camera, you guys take care. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon.